Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Just, so I'm Jenna Bazaka Forster. I'm the Director of Government Relations here at the Chamber. So I help craft our policies and, do our work with government affairs. So if you wouldn't mind just starting real simple, we have some questions and then we can do our best to answer whatever you have. But just start by maybe telling me a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to run.
Okay. So, I live in Park Shore with my wife, my beautiful wife. I have to make sure I get that in there. I'll be in trouble. And my 5-year-old daughter. She's a student at Seagate Elementary School. I've been in Naples for about 30 years, elementary, middle, and high school here. I went to Florida Atlantic University, received a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, came back to Naples, became a Naples police officer. During my time there, I rose through the SWAT team for 14 years, became the assistant SWAT commander before I retired from the team. My last few years, I was the sergeant detective in charge of our crime suppression team. Also had detectives with Homeland Security and the DEA task force. I retired in May of 2021, so short while ago. And, really running for council for me is for my daughter. I've been watching, having a 17-year career in public service, driving every street in this community. There are things that I didn't like that were going on. And I felt, what legacy will I leave behind for my daughter? And I know she's watching what I do. She tells everybody, vote for my dad, you'll have a better life. Every time we get a food delivery or we walk anywhere we go, any restaurant we go to, she tells everybody that. So at 5 years old, she's paying attention. And, I just want to leave behind a great community, the same one that I grew up in. And that's one thing that's unique about me. I grew up here. I broke my leg at Fleshman Park. I was treated at NCH. I went to school here. And then I came back and worked here. So I know the heartbeat of this community. I think it's really important to have people like that who really, truly understand the heartbeat of Naples.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about some of maybe the issues that you think are the most important issues are facing the county, maybe your top 3, 4?
Yeah. One thing is working for the city. I've watched the dysfunction in our city government. And I don't think that anybody truly understood the effects of what's been going on in our city government. And, I watched city managers leave. I watched interim city managers leave. That's the CEO of your company. The city manager runs your city. That is their job. With them leaving, it kind of leaves you without a leader. Who's steering the ship? Your department directors are answering to a new person, and they're constantly changing. And I think the longer you can keep somebody in a position like that who will understand your community, they're going to learn the community. It doesn't happen overnight. And if we keep, rotating city managers and interim city managers and deputy city managers through our system, I mean, how much are they going to build relationships with all of these departments to where we can actually continue to effectively be a part of the city and run this city? So, I mean, that's a huge problem. And then, the other thing, we're dealing with growth in Collier County. I mean, there's no question that Collier County is growing north, it's growing east. One thing I always hear when people come to town, where's a great place to go downtown on 5th Avenue? Because any community you go to, whether you're on vacation, whether you go on a business trip, whatever it is, you want to experience their downtown area. That's 5th Avenue. 5th Avenue, 3rd Street. People want to experience that. They always ask, where's a great place to go? We need to be prepared for that. We need the city employees, everything from emptying a trash bin on the beach to police officers walking on 5th Avenue. So you understand this is a safe community. You see your community policing officers out there. That's super important. And right now we don't have the staffing that we need for the influx of people from Collier County. And it's not just city residents, it's all of Collier County that comes into the city. It's a beautiful place. I mean, you look at our beaches, they're second to none. So we really do need to prepare for something like that. Another thing, clean water, coastal community. without clean water, we're not Naples. I mean, we're just absolutely are not. We need clean water. We can't go at it alone. Everybody knows that. We can't pretend that in this 14 square miles, we have all of the answers for clean water. There are things being done through the county, through the state, and through the federal government that we need to work with our partners to make sure we're doing the best job we can for the city of Naples, that we don't put ourselves so high on a pedestal that we're not willing to work with other communities to see what's been done, what's been successful, and what's failed. Why start from scratch when we know there's things that didn't work? So, I mean, those are, three important things that I think, a city council needs to look at going forward.
Yeah, you mentioned staffing. That's obviously something that we've been cognizant of, and the city has been, residents and county residents have all seen. So how would you approach attracting and retaining that high quality staff at all levels, from, like you said, the person who's taking care of the trash to the county city manager?
Yeah, so if we start with our city employees, I was one for 17 years. And I hear a lot from other candidates about these plans they have. Well, those have been done before. They haven't worked. They're being done now. They're not working. So they're not going to work in the future. I know what works because I was a city employee. I was a supervisor with our police department. So when an officer would come in, work for 6 months to a year, and already move on to another agency, they would submit a memo of resignation. And I was their first line supervisor that would review it. And I would call them in my office. And a lot of them sought me out because they trusted me and they knew that I was frank to the point. And they would tell me, this is the reason that I'm leaving. That's something I know that no other candidate knows because they haven't sat down with those employees. And I still talk to them. Some of them who work for the Collier County Sheriff's Office now, they work for Greater Naples Fire. They've moved on to North Naples Fire. I mean, these are people that I still am in contact with, and they love what they're doing. They would have stayed with the city if we had done the right thing by them, but we didn't. We didn't give them a comprehensive plan. We didn't put together a comprehensive plan of salaries, career progression. When I started, the one thing that I asked when I sat down was, this salary is great. I see a top salary. How do I get there? And they had a plan in place. That doesn't exist anymore. So now officers are sitting there saying, I'm making this amount, but I don't know if I'll ever achieve top officer pay. So I can work here for 30 years and never achieve top officer pay. When I left after 17 years as a supervisor, I still wasn't making the top police officer pay, or I was just reaching top police officer pay, but I was already a supervisor. I'd already been promoted past that because we didn't have that plan still in place. It was taken away from our officers. So that's a huge problem. Their benefits packages, your pension, our pension changed throughout my career. I went in with one pension, it was frozen, then I had another pension. That creates a problem because the police officers are looking at that. If they want to go to another agency, they're better off going to a Collier County Sheriff's Office or anything that has a state retirement, because they can transfer anywhere in the state of Florida and continue that retirement. Unless we have a competitive city retirement, there's no reason for them to stay in our retirement system. That's a huge problem. Your city manager, he runs the city. Your department directors, other than your city attorney and the clerk, answer to your city manager. He needs to be able to run the city. We can't think as council, we're going to run the city. We all come from a different background. Many of us do not have the qualifications that the city manager has to have when we hire them. So we need to allow them to do their job. If I hire someone, and I always did this with my detectives, if I brought you into my unit and I trusted you to do a job, I didn't stand over your shoulder and micromanage every single thing you did. I was there to help you when you stumbled. I was there to help push your ideas along, but I didn't hover over top of you, micromanage you so that you felt unwanted because you would move on. Any supervisor knows that in any industry, if you do not trust your employees to do their job, they're going to move on.
Yeah, it's great.
Hi, Ian. I'm Michael Dolby. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, we just got in, and we're just talking a little bit about staffing, and Ian talked a little bit about some of his priorities, one of them which included growth and talking about growth. So what is your approach to growth in the city, particularly in terms of redevelopment? And if you can maybe speak to some of the projects that are either in the pipeline or coming down and being discussed, such as the Athens Group project and maybe the NCH Heart Institute, and how those fit in with that.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing growth in the county. We're seeing a redevelopment in the city, and that's one thing to keep in mind is, what's going on in the city is redevelopment. There's not a lot of vacant land in the city of Naples for things to be built. So essentially something needs to be torn down or it needs to be improved upon. And that's something that, we really need to make sure we understand. As far as the Heart Institute, that's near and dear to me. We're dealing with a Heart Institute. We're not dealing with a hotel. We're not dealing with a playhouse. It is a premier Heart Institute. My father suffered from an aortic aneurysm, the widowmaker. Luckily, he survived. Having a premier Heart Institute is essential to someone like him. He's in his mid-70s now, and he's going to rely on it. He just suffered a second heart attack just last year, just before my retirement. Having a premier Heart Institute is huge. It's huge to an aging population. I know that myself, with a family history like that of both grandparents dying in their 60s of heart disease, an aunt who died in her 50s of heart disease, my father suffering 2 heart attacks, it's inevitable that my heart is going to attack me. It's gonna happen. But we need premier institutes that can deal with this. We need to essentially, why aren't we leading the nation in this? Look at our demographic. Look at the people that are coming to Naples, coming to the city of Naples. These are people that are flocking here from all over the country, international. They want premier healthcare, and we need to give it to them. And we need to make sure that what we're doing with NCH, we understand that this is a medical facility. We have to understand what it actually is. And I don't think, a lot of people, it's easy to say, these political phrases to get, people to vote for you and all that. We need to be logical about this and realize what it actually is.
Thank you.
Could you talk a little?
Were there other ones there? I'm sorry, we kind of had a
Oh,
long.
well, I was
question.
gonna say, can you talk a little bit more about how you would approach redevelopment in the city?
Okay, yeah, smart development. One thing we need to do is we need to make sure we don't risk stagnation. We saw that 25 years ago or 20 plus years ago with Fifth Avenue, when we started to see the decline where people weren't coming to Fifth Avenue again. I worked, with the police department right after that started, and we started to see, less and less people coming, to our downtown areas. So if we're dealing with redevelopment, we make sure that we do it smart, and we make sure that it is done so that we are essentially providing the service that the community wants. Not that we think personally that this is how it should be done. Let's poll the community. What does the community want in the city of Naples?
Yeah, good point. Thanks. Yeah, and there's
Thank you.
going to be more of those opportunities that are going to come before the city, and being able to have the flexibility to adapt to the different situations, different environments, and realizing that density is really your friend in many ways, to be able to handle a growing population and that still loves this area, wants to come down in this area. And we're not talking high rises, but still being able to figure out the right densities that are going to fit with Naples.
Yeah, absolutely.
Michael, did you have anything you wanted to ask in particular?
Well, you covered staffing, and you've covered the kind of the issues about the business and growth and those kind of things there. Are there other kind of maybe parts of your platform that we haven't talked about that you'd like to kind of make sure that we were aware of?
Like I said earlier, clean water, coastal community. I remember I would, go into the Marine unit with our department, and during the last algae bloom and the red tide. And I said, what are you guys doing? They said, we can't go out there. I said, what do you mean you can't go out there? I said, we're chumming the water. Can't get through the bay. You go through the bay and you're just chopping up fish. It's horrible. And I tell my guys, hey, I know we have to do our pier patrols, but don't go out past the first set of stairs, because you're just going to be caught. I mean, it's miserable. I can't send you guys out there, so
Right.
that's huge. And we need to stay ahead of it. But like I said earlier, we can't do it alone. And we can't say that, we're not willing to work with Collier County. We're not willing to work with, other agencies to get it done. And we need to look at the things that haven't worked. There's tried methods that haven't worked. There's some that have worked. And we need to look at those, and we need to evaluate them, and also understand that I'm not an expert in clean water. No one on council is an expert in clean water. So we need to sit down and evaluate things based on the experts and what they've seen and what they know.
Thank you.
You mentioned, working with other, you can't do it alone. How do you envision the city's relationship with Collier County and that working?
Yeah, so I bridged some gaps with Collier County. I took our SWAT team from being Naples Police Department SWAT team to working on joint operations with Collier County. So when Collier County would go out and do an operation, they would use our Bearcat, our armored vehicle. They would use our SWAT operators. They would reach out to me as the assistant commander and say, I need 5 guys for an operation. Same thing with us. My last search warrant that I served right before retirement called up Collier County, and they actually served the warrant with our SWAT team. They led the operation from the SWAT standpoint. So I understood that. When I was running the crime suppression team, I went to through my chain of command to the chief of police, and I said, Chief, there's task force out there, net force, it's a statewide narcotics task force, Homeland Security task force. I said, we need to understand that they're going to provide manpower, resources, and knowledge. That's huge. And that's something I think the city needs to continue to do on all fields. You can't, if we were able to do that in the law enforcement field, there's no reason why city government can't work the same way and not be hard-headed and think we're going at this alone. We're going to do this alone. No, we work with our partners. Some of them have ideas that we'll never think of because of the experience they've had.
Right.
So we need to really, really harness that.
Very good. Thank you. Well, I don't know if Jenna said this in the beginning, but we try hard to meet on a pretty regular basis with council members. We want to make sure that they're aware of the issues that our businesses or issues within our economy that we're seeing, and that they can stay abreast of those. We'll sometimes engage on particular issues, development issues, and things like that in the community as well.
Okay.
But we want you to also reach out to us if there's certain things that you have a question about, or you're wondering about a particular piece of economic data, or how our businesses are seeing situations. I think it's important too, and we want to make sure that you feel good about reaching out to us at any time, no matter what happens in the elections.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's something I've said through this whole process. I said, win, lose, or draw. I said, I've been introduced to a lot of people that I think I'm going to talk to between now and until I'm ready to retire and beyond that. I said, because, there's certain things that I've learned through this process. And I think there's relationships that I've made that I'm going to stay engaged in some way, because I can be a part of this no matter what. And I think more people need to be a part of this.
Well, good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for
Thank
your willingness
you.
to
We
run for office.
Thank you.
Not easy.
I'm gonna say, yeah. And I don't think we have any other questions for you, but if there's anything you specifically had for us, we'd be glad to answer it for you.
No, I really appreciate you doing this. And, I look forward to working with you, like I said, either on council or in some other fashion. I think we've now been introduced, and it's time for us to get to work one way or another. I think you need more people, involvement from more people. And I want to be one of those people.
Perfect.
Good luck, and we look forward to seeing election results and to working with you one way or the other.
Thank you very much. It was great
Thanks,
talking
Ian.
with you guys.
Nice to
Take
talk
care.
with you. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye.